It was another long, grueling day for Olivia Thompson. The 38-year-old single mother had just dropped her 14-year-old son, Jalen, off at school before making her way to the rundown neighborhood diner where she worked as a waitress. Her car, a beat-up 1999 Honda Civic, sputtered and wheezed as it rolled through the cracked pavement of the city streets. She hated the way it looked, but it was all she could afford. Her salary as a waitress barely covered the bills, and a car loan was out of the question. The teasing and mocking never stopped, but she had learned to ignore it. As Olivia pulled into the diner's parking lot, she noticed a group of young servers gathered near the entrance, laughing and pointing at her car. They'd been doing this for weeks now, the way they snickered behind her back, making cruel comments about her old, dirty car. "You see that?" a young server, Kara, sneered as Olivia got out of the car. "Who even still drives a thing like that?" Another server, Damien, chimed in, "That car's so old it should be in a museum." Olivia clenched her fists but said nothing, refusing to give them the satisfaction of seeing her upset. She had a job to do. As she walked past them, she overheard a few other comments. How does she even make it through the day? She probably doesn't even know what a decent car feels like. She kept her head down, but the sting of their words didn't go unnoticed. The ridicule had become a part of her life, a constant reminder of how she didn't measure up. But what they didn't know, what they would never understand, was that Olivia had fought for everything she had. She had fought to keep her family together, fought to make sure Jalen had what he needed. She had endured more than they could ever imagine, and no amount of teasing was going to break her. As the day wore on, the diner grew busier. Olivia had learned to balance the chaos, taking orders, serving food, and constantly dealing with disrespect from the customers, all while pretending it didn't affect her. But today felt different. The air was thick with tension, and she couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to happen. Around lunchtime, a man entered the diner, tall, sharply dressed in a tailored suit, his face calm and collected. His presence was undeniable, and every head turned as he walked through the door. Olivia, who had just finished clearing a table, caught a glimpse of the man and felt a strange chill run down her spine. She could tell he wasn't just any ordinary customer. "Can I help you?" Olivia asked, trying to keep her voice steady. The man smiled. "Yes, please. A seat by the window if possible." Olivia led him to a quiet corner, and as he sat down, she couldn't help but notice the look of recognition in the eyes of the other servers. They were suddenly all over him, flirting, vying for his attention. The man was clearly used to it, offering a small, polite smile but keeping his attention on Olivia. "Is this your usual spot?" he asked, breaking the silence. Olivia, flustered by the unexpected interaction, answered, I guess so. It's quieter here." The man nodded, his eyes scanning the room. "I can tell. It's peaceful." Before Olivia could respond, the servers, particularly Kara and Damien, approached the table, eager to take his order. They bathed in the possibility that he was a regular customer, but they treated him like he was a prize to be won. "Good afternoon, sir," Kara said, flashing a wide smile. "What can we get you today?" The man glanced at her, but then turned his attention back to Olivia. "Actually, I'd prefer to order from her," he said with an ease that made Kara's smile falter. "She seems like someone who can handle it." Kara stiffened, clearly irritated, but she nodded and stepped away. Olivia was stunned. Nobody had ever spoken up for her like that before. It was clear that this man wasn't just another wealthy patron trying to get his meal. He was different. The rest of the day passed in a blur for Olivia. She took his order, brought him his food, and continued about her work, though her mind kept returning to him. Who was he? And why did he treat her with such respect when everyone else seemed so eager to put her down? Just before closing time, the man stood up and walked over to Olivia's station. "I've been watching you," he said, his voice soft but filled with purpose. "And I have to say I'm impressed." Olivia blinked, unsure of how to respond. "Impressed?" "Yes," he replied. "You've got something I like. Strength. Integrity. You don't let people's words define you. And that's rare." Olivia felt her heart race. It had been so long since anyone had spoken to her like that. The servers, the customers, they all saw her as invisible, as someone who would never rise above her station. But this man? He saw her. Before she could ask any questions, Kara and Damien, who had been watching from a distance, approached with a snicker. "Who's this, Olivia?" Damien smirked. "A rich guy trying to buy your affection?" Olivia looked at him, but she didn't say anything. Instead, the man glanced at Damien with a quiet authority, his expression darkening. "You should watch your mouth," the man said coldly. "Your ignorance is showing." Damien froze, but the tension in the air was thick. Olivia could feel it. Something was shifting, something bigger than just the way they treated her at the diner. The man turned back to her. Olivia, I want you to meet me tomorrow. I'm offering you an opportunity that could change everything. I think you deserve it. Olivia's heart leapt in her chest. Was this real? Was this her chance to finally break free from the life that had held her down for so long? I don't know what to say, she stammered, overwhelmed. The man smiled and handed her a business card. Think about it. You have more potential than anyone in this room realizes. I see that. Before Olivia could respond, the man walked out of the diner, leaving her standing there, holding his card. Her hands trembled as she stared at it, a whirlwind of emotions swirling inside her. Meanwhile, Kara and Damien, who had witnessed the exchange, looked at each other, clearly baffled by the turn of events. The smirks had disappeared, replaced by confusion and unease. The room felt different now. It felt like a turning point, a moment when everything that had been holding Olivia back could finally fall away. But just as she thought things might be getting better, something inside her whispered that this wasn't the end. This was just the beginning. The next day, Olivia woke up with a nervous energy that she hadn't felt in years. The card in her hand, the one that billionaire David Williams had given her the night before, felt like a weight in her palm. The words on it seemed to glow as she stared at them. David Williams, CEO, Williams Enterprises. Her heart raced. This wasn't just some random offer. This was an opportunity to change her life. She had tossed and turned all night, wondering if it was real, if she was being played, or if this was some kind of cruel joke. She had been used to disappointment, to promises that led nowhere. But something about David's words, the calm confidence in his voice, the way he had stood up to Kara and Damien, made her think that maybe this time it was different. But what if it wasn't? Olivia glanced at the clock on her kitchen wall. The diner would be opening soon, but her shift didn't start until the afternoon. She had time. Time to decide. Time to figure out if she should meet David or walk away. She glanced at Jalen, still asleep in his room, unaware of the uncertainty that had overtaken his mother. He was all she had. Her mind raced as she weighed her options. Could she really take a leap of faith? What if it all fell apart? But deep down, Olivia knew that staying in her current life wasn't an option. She had worked too hard, sacrificed too much to stay stagnant. She couldn't keep being the punchline of other people's jokes. She deserved more. By the time she walked into Williams Enterprises' office building, her palms were clammy, her heart pounding in her chest. The towering skyscraper loomed ahead of her like a fortress, and for a moment she hesitated. She could turn around, go back to the diner, and pretend like the last 24 hours had never happened. But she didn't. She pressed on. The lobby was pristine, the floors shining like glass, the walls decorated with artwork that screamed wealth. The receptionist greeted her with a warm smile, but there was something about the polished professionalism that made Olivia feel out of place. "Good afternoon," the receptionist said, her voice like silk. "How may I help you?" Olivia swallowed hard. "I'm here to see Mr. David Williams. I spoke to him yesterday." The receptionist raised an eyebrow, a brief flicker of surprise crossing her face before she masked it with a smile. "Of course. Please have a seat. Mr. Williams will be with you shortly." Olivia sat, feeling like a fish out of water. The luxurious surroundings seemed to mock her worn jeans and plain blouse. She was an outsider here, a small-town girl trying to fit into a world that wasn't made for people like her. Minutes felt like hours as she waited, her thoughts spinning in 100 different directions. She didn't belong here. This was a world where people like David Williams thrived, where their every word was worth millions, and she was just a waitress in an old car. She was nothing like him. But then the doors to the office opened and there he was. David Williams. The man who had seen something in her that no one else had. He stepped into the room with a smile, his presence commanding. The nervousness in Olivia's chest seemed to dissipate, replaced by a quiet confidence that she hadn't felt in years. She stood, meeting his eyes as he extended his hand. "Olivia, I'm glad you came," he said, his voice smooth and welcoming. She shook his hand, her fingers trembling slightly. "Thank you for giving me this chance." David gestured for her to sit. "It's not a chance, Olivia. It's an opportunity. I don't offer these to just anyone. I see potential in you. You've got the drive. The grit. You're a fighter." Her chest tightened at his words. "I've been fighting for a long time. But I'm just a waitress. What can someone like me offer you?" David leaned forward, his gaze intense. "You think I'm offering you a job because you're a waitress? No. I'm offering you this because I know you've been underestimated your whole life. Because I know you've got something more inside of you, something that most people overlook. I don't need someone who's just going to blend in. I need someone who's going to make a difference. Olivia's breath caught in her throat. But what if I fail? David smiled, a small, knowing smile. Failure is part of the journey. But you can't grow if you don't take risks. And I believe you're ready to take that step. The conversation was surreal. Olivia had spent years trying to please others, trying to fit into a mold that wasn't hers, and now, here was this man, offering her a chance to break free. But what did that mean for her? What would it cost her? David handed her a folder. This contains everything you need to know. The job, the offer, the compensation. I'm not going to tell you it'll be easy, but it will be worth it. Think about it and let me know what you decide. Olivia stared at the folder, her mind spinning. This was it. The chance she had always dreamed of. She could feel the weight of the decision pressing on her chest. But just as she was about to speak, the door to the office opened. A man entered, someone Olivia didn't recognize. He was tall, wearing a sharp suit, and his expression was cold. He didn't look like someone who belonged in the same room as her or David. His eyes scanned the room before locking onto David. David, the man said, his tone sharp, I need to speak with you about the board meeting tomorrow. It's urgent. David stood up immediately, his expression hardening. Of course. I'll be there in a moment. The man turned to Olivia, barely acknowledging her presence. I'm sorry to interrupt, but there are more pressing matters at hand. David nodded, his voice steady. We'll finish this conversation later, Olivia. Please take your time with the offer. As the man walked out, Olivia could feel the tension in the room shift. What was going on? What did this sudden interruption mean? Why was David's expression so tense? David gave her a quick smile before following the man out of the room. But as the door closed behind him, Olivia couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to go terribly wrong. She picked up the folder, the weight of it suddenly feeling heavier than before. Was she walking into a world she wasn't ready for? Was this offer more dangerous than it seemed? Olivia sat in the sleek, quiet office, the folder still in her hands. The seconds ticked by like hours as she stared at the door where David had just exited. Her mind raced. She had come so far and now it felt like everything was teetering on the edge of something big. But what? David had promised her an opportunity, but now, after the abrupt interruption and the tense conversation with the man in the suit, she wasn't sure what she had walked into. The world outside this office felt distant, almost unreal compared to the polished, cold luxury surrounding her. She felt small, like an intruder in this high-stakes world. Her fingers shook as she opened the folder. The documents inside seemed to blur together as her mind struggled to focus. The offer was generous, but the fine print was dense, filled with legal terms that didn't make sense to her. Still, something about it didn't sit right. What was she really getting into? What kind of opportunity was David offering her? Olivia rubbed her temples, trying to make sense of it all. As she skimmed through the details, one phrase caught her eye. Exclusive involvement in a new business venture with high-level stakeholders. It sounded too good to be true, and maybe it was. Maybe this was a trap. Maybe David had seen the desperation in her eyes and was offering her something to reel her in, a part of some shady deal. The door to the office creaked open, pulling her from her thoughts. David reappeared, his expression serious. He closed the door behind him, and for a moment the room felt colder. Olivia, he said, his voice now lacking the warm tone he had earlier. I apologize for the interruption. That was important business, but I'm glad you stayed. Olivia set the folder down on the desk, her eyes meeting his. What was that about? Who was that man? She asked, unable to keep the question inside any longer. The tension in the air had shifted from an offer of help to something that felt more dangerous, more volatile. David hesitated, his gaze shifting to the window before returning to her. That was Victor. He's someone I trust, but he doesn't always see things the way I do. Olivia leaned forward slightly, pressing her palms into the cool desk. What does that mean? What's going on here, David? He sighed, running a hand through his hair. It means there are people who don't like the changes I'm trying to make. Not everyone is on board with the direction I want to take this company. Olivia's heart pounded. This was becoming more than just an offer. This wasn't some simple job. This was something bigger, something with high stakes. She could feel it. She had already seen the signs, the tension in the office, the way David had shut down when Victor came in. The game they were playing wasn't one she had ever been prepared for. David must have noticed the hesitation in her eyes. I didn't want to tell you this so soon, but you deserve to know. The offer I gave you? It's part of a larger vision, a vision that not everyone agrees with. Some of the board members, including Victor, think I'm making a huge mistake by bringing someone like you into the fold. They think you're too unpredictable. Her breath caught in her throat. Unpredictable? I'm just trying to make a living. David stepped closer to her, his voice low but filled with a sense of urgency. That's exactly why I believe in you. You see, Olivia, the thing is, these people think they can control the world around them. They think everything has to go according to plan. But I'm trying to change that. I want to disrupt the system, make something real, and I need people like you who are willing to take a chance. His words struck her deeply, and for a moment, Olivia felt like he was speaking directly to her soul. She had been stuck in this cycle of working day in and day out, taking whatever life threw at her without ever questioning it. But now, David was offering her a chance to do something different, something bigger than she ever imagined. The stakes were higher than she could have dreamed, and yet, a part of her wanted to believe that this was the breakthrough she had been waiting for her entire life. But there was still a catch. There always was. Something was off. The way David spoke about Victor and the board made it clear that not everyone wanted this to happen. There were powerful forces at play, and Olivia was about to get caught in the middle of them. I don't know if I can just jump into something like this, Olivia said, her voice trembling slightly. I don't know if I can trust you. David's face softened, his expression almost pleading. I'm not asking you to trust me completely right now. I'm asking you to take a chance on yourself, Olivia. I'm offering you a future where you call the shots. But it's not going to be easy. Before Olivia could respond, there was another knock at the door. This time it was more urgent, more forceful. David's expression darkened, and Olivia felt her stomach drop. The door opened before he could answer, and in walked Victor, the man who had interrupted their meeting earlier. His eyes were cold, calculating as he looked straight at David. You're making a mistake, Victor said, his voice sharp. You can't just hand over the reins to someone like her. You don't know anything about her. This is reckless, David. The board won't approve of this. David stood up, his hands clenched into fists. I'm making this decision, Victor. Not you. And you'll just have to deal with it. Victor stepped closer, his voice lowered to a threatening tone. You think this is just about a job offer? You think it's that simple? There are forces you don't understand. You can't just disrupt everything on a whim. There are consequences, David. Olivia felt a chill run through her. What was happening here? What had she walked into? David turned to Olivia, his face hard. I'll explain everything soon. But right now, I need you to trust me. But Olivia didn't know if she could. The power in the room was shifting and she was caught in the middle. David had promised her a chance at something bigger, something more than she had ever dreamed. But now, it seemed like there were forces working against them. Was she really ready to be a part of this war, or was she about to make a mistake that would change everything? The room was thick with tension. Olivia sat frozen in her chair, her heart racing as David and Victor exchanged sharp words. She had no idea what she had walked into, but every second felt like a countdown. The whole situation had spiraled out of control faster than she could process. What had started as an opportunity had now become a battlefield, a place where power, influence, and secrets were at stake. David's eyes never left Victor's, but he turned to Olivia, his voice firm. I didn't want you to get caught in this, he said, his tone low but filled with determination. But now that you're here, you're part of this. Whether you like it or not. Victor scoffed, but David didn't back down. I'm not backing down on this, Victor. I'm going to bring change and I'm going to do it my way. If you're not with me, you're against me. Olivia could feel the weight of their words pressing on her chest. Was this really what she wanted? A world where powerful people fought for control and she was just a pawn in their game? She hadn't asked for any of this, and yet here she was, caught in the middle of a fight between two powerful men. Victor glanced at Olivia, his expression still cold. You think she's going to make a difference? She's just a waitress, David. Nothing more, nothing less. Olivia stood up suddenly, the anger she had kept bottled up for so long rising to the surface. I am more than that, she said, her voice steady but filled with fire. I'm not just some pawn. I'm a person. And I've worked harder than anyone here to get where I am. I didn't come here to be underestimated, and I'm not going to let you treat me like I don't matter. David looked at her, a flicker of pride in his eyes. For the first time she saw that he wasn't just offering her a job, he was offering her a chance to prove herself, to stand up and show everyone what she was capable of. Victor's face reddened and he took a step toward Olivia. You're making a mistake, he said, his voice low and dangerous. This is bigger than you think. You don't know who you're messing with. Olivia took a deep breath, standing her ground. Maybe you're right, she said. Maybe I don't know everything. But I know one thing for sure. I'm not going to sit back and let you decide my future for me. I'm going to make my own choices and I'm going to prove you wrong. Victor's eyes narrowed as he glared at Olivia, but she didn't flinch. The power in the room had shifted. She wasn't the powerless waitress anymore. She was someone who had fought her way out of the dark and had the strength to stand up to anyone who tried to bring her down. David took a step forward, his voice calm but unwavering. Victor, this conversation is over. Olivia is a part of this and there's nothing you can do to change that. Victor's face twisted in anger, but he knew he had lost. Without another word, he turned and walked out of the room, leaving the tension behind him. David exhaled slowly and turned back to Olivia, a soft smile on his face. I meant what I said before. I see something in you. You're more than just a waitress. You're someone who can change the world. Olivia swallowed, still processing everything that had happened. I don't know if I can do this, David. I don't know if I'm ready. David nodded, understanding her hesitation. I get it. It's not going to be easy. But I'm not asking you to be ready. I'm asking you to take the first step. The rest will come. You're not in this alone. Olivia looked down at the folder in front of her, the weight of the decision heavy on her shoulders. But as she looked up at David, something inside her shifted. She wasn't the same person who had walked into that diner all those months ago, laughed at and looked down upon. She was stronger now, tougher, and ready to fight for what she deserved. I'll do it, she said, her voice steady with resolve. I'll take the chance. David's smile widened, and for the first time in a long time, Olivia felt a sense of hope. Maybe this was her moment. Maybe this was the chance she had been waiting for all her life. Olivia had been underestimated her whole life. People had mocked her for her old car, for her low-paying job, for her struggle. But now she was more than that. She had something no one could take away. Her strength, her determination, and her willingness to fight for what she believed in. And as she looked at David, she realized that this was just the beginning. The journey ahead wouldn't be easy, but it was one she was ready to face head-on. If you enjoyed Olivia's journey, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more inspiring stories of overcoming obstacles and proving the world wrong. Leave a comment below and let us know. When was the last time you defied the odds and proved everyone wrong?